Maseches Bava Kame Dafid Beis Amud Beis. That's today's Amud Beis Amud Beis, and we are in the two dots. It's Beis Amud Beis Bava Kame in the two dots. Two dots Zehut. Nechosim Shen Ben Meila. Let's go into the new topic today. Nechosim Shen Ben Meila. Today, the shiur, I don't think it's a very hard shiur. It's just a lot of terms that may be new for some of us. Sometimes people look at kochim or tyrus and they get a fit, almost heart attack. Nothing to be scared of. We're only talking here about terms that are not everyday terms, that's all, but it's not like it's really more difficult. It's just the terminology is a little bit out of our, everyday life, that's all. Nechosim Shen Ben Meila. This year's Leilu Nishmas of Imoyer Menachem Ben Akiva, Hus Bas Shalom, So Bas Moshe Tzila Bas Ben Zion. Okay, so the Mishnah said, the two dots, 5 lines from the top of the page, Be'ezras Hashem. The Mishnah said that what kind of assets, what kind of things am I chayev if my shor gored the other shore, what kind of nechosim? So we said nechosim she'en behen me'ila. What does that mean? Me'ila, literally embezzlement. Me'ila means the halacha that says that if one took or used money or anything that belongs to kochim, belongs to Beis HaMikdash, then he's chayev to bring a korban. If he did it b'shoigeg, he's chayev korban me'ilach, he has to bring an osham, choimish, v'chule, sometimes choimish. Yeah, that's all. Now, comes the Mishnah and tells me, nechosim, you know what kind of bull am I chayev on if my bull gored him? Only if it's one that has no me'ila, meaning me'ila doesn't apply to it. Usually that means chulin, regular bull. It says re'ehu. Yeah, this is clear enough. It says re'ehu, which is his friend. Therefore, only if my show gored my friend's show, which is a regular Joe Schmo, another nice Jewish boy, then I'm chayiv chulin. But if my show gored the one of Beis HaMikdash, the gore, let's say, that was dedicated for korban. Let's say one was mekadesh shore for oila, let's say. Yeah, you can bring the shore oila, male. And then my shore gored the one that is frolicking in the backyard of my friend, and he's a show that was already mukdash, already holy, mukdash to go to Beis HaMikdash, and will be probably bought next week, brought to Beis HaMikdash, but now it's still in my friend's backyard. That's a classical case of show mukdoshin, a show which is already belonging to Beis HaMikdash, and then I'm not chayiv. That's not called re'eu. It belongs to Hashem, and Hashem is not my friend. I mean, he is in a way, but we're not in the same terms. We're not the same level, and therefore, we say a show that belongs to Beis HaMikdash in any shape or form. That's what I would say. That's what it sounds like. I'm not chayiv if my show gored him. Only re'eu appears if somebody's the same level as me, another friend, another Jewish boy. Then if my show gored re'eu, his show, then I'm chayiv. That's what I would have said when I learned the Mishnah. Nechosim she'ein bein me'ila, nechosim where me'ila doesn't apply, those nechosim I'm chayiv if my show gored them. Now the question is, before we even start the Gemara, I would ask you a question. Why can't the Mishnah speak normal? Why can't the Mishnah just say chulin? The Mishnah should have said show shel chulin. Chulin is just another name to say something that there's no me'ila. It's more direct way. If I want to talk about Tzvi, I would say Tzvi. I wouldn't say the guy from Cherry Hill who I'm trying to play riddles over here. I would talk normal and address the person. Why do you have to talk in riddles and rhymes and allusions? Therefore, the Gemara points out, says the Gemara, me'ilahu deleisbehu. Must be there's some gray area here in between. Me'ilahu deleisbehu. We're talking about something that has no me'ilah. Ha mikdash kadshi. We're talking here about something that is kodesh. It already has kedusha. A person woke up in the morning and said, let's say a week ago, this show will be of what for korban in Beis HaMikdash, and yet it has no me'ilah, which means there's a certain type of korban. Soon, very soon, Hashem will see what kind. That korban is kodesh, but has no me'ilah. Me'ilah doesn't apply to it. If you used it, which is an avera, you're not chayiv me'ilah. You're not chayiv korban me'ilah b'di'evet. let me just take you through a tour of Kochim a little bit. The life of a korban, the life of a korban. We're talking here about korban, which is Kochim Kalim, which is life and death of Kochim, life and Shchita, life and afterlife of Kochim. What happens when a person is mekadesh? We're talking now about a behema called behemas Kochim Kalim. A behema of Kochim Kalim is a behema that will eventually be brought to Beis HaMikdash, right? Then who's going to be able to eat it? Everybody. The Kohen and his wives and his daughters, they'll eat the chazeh v'shrik. They'll eat two parts, the chest and the thigh. And the other people, the regular Bailim, Yisrael, is also allowed to eat the shlomim, toido. The same applies to other lighter kochim. They eat them in Yerushalayim as long as they're pure and they're inside the walls of Yerushalayim. They can eat. Kochim kalim are the lighter form of kochim, as opposed to kochim kodshim, which are the more severe, high-level, red alert kind of kochim that can only be eaten by kohanim and only inside the azor, only inside the Ezel Sisol, the inner court of Beis HaMikdash. Okay? Now, what does that have to do with us? We're talking here about Me'ila. When it comes to kochim kalim, as soon we're going to see how we know that, kochim kalim, Me'ila doesn't apply to them as long as they're alive, which means if a person designated a behema, let's say a bull in our case, or could be a sheep or anything, for shlomim, he feels good, or let's say toido, he came back from America and he's safe and sound, and now he is what? He wants to be in korban to Hashem. It's a korban toido, it's kochim kalim, it's a lighter form of kochim. Now, let's say he used it by mistake when he was still alive. Let's say he was riding on the shore, or let's say he took it from whatever, he did something that's considered as meal. I'm not sure riding consists of that. He took some of the hair and he used it, let's say. So then he's not chayv korban. Me'ila doesn't apply to it. The punishment of kilo and bezzling from it doesn't apply to kochim kalim. No. Only after they shecht it in Beis HaMikdash, that's the next stage. You take it to Beis HaMikdash, and then people can shecht it. People, even Israelim, are allowed to shecht in Beis HaMikdash, not only a kohen. And then they bring the blood. They take the blood and they spritz it on the mizbeach, by shlomim, by every korban in different ways. Once the blood was brought into the mizbeach, that's the most crucial point. That's like the most important point in the life or death of the korban. At that point, the korban was brought and everything is good. And from that point onwards, people can eat the flesh. They can eat the meat. You bring the imurim on the mizbeach. The imurim are the fats, the intestines, the kidneys and all that, and the stomach and the liver. And then afterwards, the kohanim and the bailim, they partake from the korban. Now, only after zrika, then me'ila applies. Once the blood was thrown into the mizbeach, and then the kohanim and the Israelim eat the flesh, then that's considered that if you did me'ila, then at that point, you chayev me'ila. It's a real me'ila. But up until that point, as long as Behem is alive, and even after the shchita, before the zrika sadam, before the blood, at an early stage, the two early stages of the life of the korban, life and death, that korban me'ila doesn't apply to kochim kalim. From psukim, we've spoken about in Kiddushin, in me'ila, in other places. But that's the trick over here. Me'ila says the Gemara what? The Gemara now says, aha, there we are. We found it. We found a reason. Why did the Mishnah say the things that don't have me'ila? Why are we talking about things that have no me'ila and we can't just say chulin? No, because we have something that's kodshim and still doesn't have me'ila. That is kodshim kalim before the shchita. And before the zrika, which we'll ignore right now, Bekitza, we're in Bet Shemesh, and Beis HaMikdash is built tomorrow. And a week from today, a lot of people will bring shlomim and toido and all kinds of kochim kalim, also kochim. Let's focus now on kochim kalim. And if my shore gored your sheep or your shore, and your shore happens to be what? Happens to be kochim of Beis HaMikdash, that those kochim me'ila doesn't apply to them, and yet my shore is chayev for goring yours. That's what the Mishnah is mekadesh. Meaning this is something that I would say belongs to Beis HaMikdash. And I would say it belongs to Hashem. It's not Re'ehu. Comes the Mishnah and says, no, because Me'ila doesn't apply, it's called Re'ehu. This is called still Re'ehu. It's called that it's owned by the owner. As long as it wasn't brought to Beis HaMikdash, the owner is the owner, even though the owner is not allowed to use it. But because if the owner uses it or anybody else, they're not chayav punishment or korban, it's like halfway here, halfway there. At that stage, it's still called re'ehu, and therefore, if my shore gored it, I am chayav. That's the story of our Mishnah. Let's see it inside. And this is only true according to, I'm reading again. Me'ilahu deleisbehu. We're talking about something that has no me'ila, not something that's chulin. Otherwise, I would have said chulin. Me'ila doesn't apply. Ha-mikdash chamchi. Must be, there is kedusha. It's this in-between stage. Kedusha applies. A week ago, when my friend woke up in the morning with a good mood, wanting to thank Hashem for, I don't know, winning the lottery, and he wants to bring shlomim, toida, whatever that is, then what? It's kodosh. But me'ila doesn't apply. Why doesn't me'ila apply? Because it's kochim kalim. The lights are kind of kochim as long as they're alive, and a bit later, then me'ila doesn't apply, and therefore they're called re'ehu. They're considered to be owned by the real owner, not to be yet owned by Kadosh Baruch Hu. Who says that? Man Tana. Who is the Tana to support such an idea that the name of kochim is considered as belonging to the owner because it's kochim kalim and me'ila doesn't apply? Amar Rabbi Yochanan bekochim kalim. This is according to Rabbi Glili only in the lighter kind of kochim. The Omar moment by limu, because Rabbi Glili is the one who argues in Chachamim, in Kiddushin, in other places, and he says the behema, which Me'ila doesn't apply to, is considered to be the money of the owners. It's still called an asset of the owner, and therefore, if my shore gored it, I have to pay cash or karka or whatever, or the body of the shore, anybody of the shore, to who? To the owner. Who's the owner? Mr. Reuven Leib Zalman Shochatchowski. The owner is a regular Israel who designated the Beis Hamikdash, but he's still called the owner because as long as Me'ila is not there, he's still called the owner. So any kochim kalim which are alive, such as Toida, Shlomim, Maisel, possibly, we'll discuss later, Maisel B'chor, these things, kochim kalim, Pesach also. You have a shepsel for Pesach, somebody gored your Pesach. Oh. Yeah, it's like breaking the new Pesach dishes, yeah? So then what? Then, same thing. The owner of the korban is the owner and not yet the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, my shore gored it, I have to fork out the cash or pay him with Chinese toys or with subin, but I have to pay because it's still called Re'ehu. Yeah. Let's see. Now, Rabbi Yosef, let's just get this straight. The difference between Rabbi Yosef Glili and Chachamim is everybody agrees that there's no Me'ila, but they're holy. Everyone knows it's a gray area. On one hand, when we woke up in the morning, Harei Zul Shlomim, it's Shlomim. It's right away Kochim Kalim. And everybody agrees that the Me'ila doesn't apply yet. If he shore the sheep, let's say, then it's not considered it was Moila, doesn't have to bring a korban. The question is, who's considered the owner? In that gray area between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and me, who's the owner at that point? Rabbi Yosef Glili says, at this point, it's moment of the Bailim. Yeah? As opposed to Chachamim would say it belongs already to Hashem. Give me a second. The next round of questions coming soon. Vatnan. Yeah. The Oma, the Tanya. Line starts with the Oma. The Tanya says Rabbi Yosef. Umar lomal ba'Hashem. This is a very misleading pasuk. The pasuk says, in Vayikra Hey, this pasuk talks about a person, that was mafkid, deposited something in the hands of his friend, in his friend's so-called trustworthy hands, and he was mafkid. He deposited money because he's going to the tzimmerim in the Golan, like every other nice Haredi Jew. And he was depositing the money by his friend, and he told his friend, look after it, and the friend said, yes, yes, yes. And a week later, he came from the Tzimmerim, and the friend said, money? Which money? What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about, says the friend, and his money is in inside pocket, a liar, lying through his teeth, Shvuas apikodo, and then his friend took him to Beis Din, be nishma to me, you liar. I want you to make a shvua under oath. I'm still doing this, yeah? The what? That you really don't have my money. And the friend was nishma l'sheker. And then he admitted, he cried with big tears in front of the cameras, I lied in my shvua. Then what does he have to bring? He has to bring a korban. He has to bring asham apikodon. Yeah? Asham, not by heart. The kids say it's asham apikodon. Asham gzelos. He has to bring a korban asham. The Kitzer, that's the story. And all of a sudden, that pasuk says, "Umal amal ba'Hashem." It says about the very same pasuk. In this pasuk, it says this person is embezzling Hashem. Which Hashem? I mean, Hashem is everywhere, but this doesn't belong to Hashem. This is money. The Reuven gave Shimon, Simerim. Shimon lied through his teeth and Yishba. Which mal amal ba'Hashem? So Rashi in the Chumash says, you know what it says Hashem there? Because the only one that knows is Hashem. We're talking here about people who did it with no Eidim, no star. He trusted you. He trusted you, and the only aid is Hashem. You're lying to Hashem. Now, this is a nice drosha. This is Rashi, which probably is come from a Gemara Medrash. But the drosha of Rabbi Yossi is, you know, it says Molam al Ba'Hashem. LeRabbi Skochim Kalim Shen Mamoino Diva Rabbi Yossi Glili. It says Rabbi Yossi Glili as follows: if the person went to the Tzimmerim in the Golan and he didn't give you his $1,000, you know what he gave you? He gave you his behema of Shlomim. I have a behema of Shlomim. Frolicking around the backyard. I have to go to the Golan for a week, come back. I want you to look after my behema, okay? And that behema belongs to Hashem, and yet, the whole give and take between us of me giving it to you, and you have to swear to me, and you have to pay me, right? And you have to give choimish, v'osham, they give you a fifth more, he has a knas, the whole process over there is even by an animal that's kochim kalim. That's what it says La Hashem. We're talking about an animal that was already designated to Hashem, and yet the whole set of rules of the false deposit with a liar, with a shvua, then he has to pay me and compensate me, all that it applies even to something belonging to halfway Hashem, halfway me, which is kochim kalim, which means in very simple words, not get confused. Rabbi Yossi says one thing. Kochim Kalim belongs to me. As long as it didn't go to Beis HaMikdash, it could take a long time. It's jumping in my backyard in Park Ayalon, yeah? And what? And now the behemoth is there for a whole month. During this month, until it goes to Beis HaMikdash, Shchita Zrika, who does it belong to? The owner. Mimela, if anybody gores it, money comes to me. And if I deposited it to my friend when I went to the Tzimmer, when he lied to me and he swore, money goes to me. I'm the owner of Kochim Kalim. Isn't life easy, sweet, beautiful? Life on the lake. That's not. Now the Gemara is asking, sorry, Jeffrey, Mata Omer. Okay, good, dealt with. Okay. Frag the Gemara, that's not. And here comes a question. Mekadesh bechelkoi, ben bekochim, ben bekochim kalim, eina mekudeshes. Let's say a Kohen wants to be mekadesh a woman, mazel tov. Kohen is in Shidduchim, you know, he wants to mekadesh his Kala with a very unique thing. He wants to be mekadesh her with his part in Kochim Kadoshim or Kochim Kalim. What does that mean? A Kohen gets piece of chatas. Let's say chatas is brought. Chatas is Kochim, right? Chatas or Oshim Kochim. Who eats it? Only male Kohanim, right? And he wants to be mekadesh his beloved Kala. How is he mekadesh her? He's mekadesh her with Kochim. He gives her the kochim or mekadesh sleeve with a piece of kochim. What will she do with it? She'll sell it to another Kohen. She can't eat it. She'll sell it to another Kohen. Or she'll take a photo and say, hi, it's kochim and me, and send it to all her 10,000 friends in social media, whatever she'll do with it. Yeah, but kochim is, can he be mekadesh? Let's see. Or kochim kalim. Kochim kalim is already more to the wider public. I'm eating the kochim kalim also, right? Shlomim, toido, yeah. These kind of things, myself, I can eat the kochim kalim, and he's mekadesh woman, the kochim kalim, she can eat it in Yerushalayim. Now, does that work? He says the Mishnah, Eina mekudeshes, she's not mekudeshes. Even the kochim kalim, kiddushin don't apply. Why? Because it's not considered his money, it's considered as Hashem's money. You can't be mekadesh with something that doesn't belong to you. You're allowed to eat it, but it's not yours. It's only yours to eat. It's not yours completely. And therefore, we say that's Hashem's money, not yours. You can't be mekadesh one with it. L'choira, lema, let us say, the local B'yasei Glili. L'choira, that's not local B'yasei Glili. B'yasei Glili is the one who advocated the what? What did he say? Kochim Kalim are mine, the owners. And here we see Kochim Kalim are not mine. We see the Kochim Kalim are, no, it's a very easy answer. Please give me the answer. Is that not like Rabbi Glili? No, what do you say? No, talk, please. Why isn't she mekudesh b'di'evet? Kiddushin many times are b'di'evet. No, why isn't she mekudesh? At the end of the day, it's mine. It's mine to give her. You're saying because it's like me'ila l'chatchila to give it to someone else. She leaves it, right? She leaves it. I hear. There's a much easier answer. Much easier.
We don't say that now becomes a shomer as soon as it's mekadesh. As soon as he's mekadesh the
Makdish.
transfer.
Mekadesh is a woman. Makdish. Sorry.
Yeah. Doesn't mean he now becomes from the owner, he becomes the shomer.
Answers the Gemara. Answers the Gemara. Good shot, Alan. Answers the Gemara. Line ends with the word afilu. Afilu tema b'yasei even if you follow Rabbi Akiva and that Mishnah can follow Rabbi Akiva, kiyama b'yasei mechaim. As I told you all the time, mechaim, as long as the animal is alive and kicking, alive and biting, alive and eating, that then it's considered to be under the ownership of the bailim. After shchita, after the animal was nishchat and the blood was on the mizbeach, and then they get to eat the meat. Even Rabbi Akiva admits the chikazachu mishulchan gavoy kazachu famous line. In other words, when the kohanim get to eat the korban after it was shechted and blood was nizrak, then they get the portions of meat, whether it's kohanim, Israelim, and kochim kalim. The kohanim and Israelim will only get it as a gift from Hashem to their mouth, like from shulchan gavoya, from Hashem's table. Gavoya is a high one. Hashem, the hechera. Mimela, at that point, it's not theirs. Kochim kalim are not yours once the blood was nizrak. Once it was sacrificed to Hashem, it belongs to, guess who? Hashem, and not you. You get to eat the meat. It's very nice you get to eat it, but it's not yours to be mekadesh a lady, or mekadesh a girl, or mekadesh prince Abela. And I'll tell you a halachic question to do that. Let's say you're sitting at someone's table, and that will maybe help you understand what's going on over here. Yeah? And that is, by the way, Zoom guys, I'm all the time showing the next piece. With the blue highlight. Let me ask you a very bizarre question. Imagine yourself a scene in which somebody, let's say a single guy and a single girl happen to be hosted by family. I can't say it's on Shabbos, so you'll understand it can't be on Shabbos. I'm alive, Malka. It's time they're invited to supper, a nice Tuesday night. And now the Baal Sabai serves a very, very delicious, what your fantasy food? Chicken, you're not Israeli. Lamb, no, mine too. Yeah, lamb. For my birthday, buy me a lamb, please. Not a live one. So good extra. So she serves them lamb chops, and now the guy always had his eyes on the girl, and they're already like, no, it's in a good way, in shidduchim. And he was thinking of mekadesh her at the table. The Baal Sabai served him the lamb chops, yeah, and whatever, the steak, the ribs, and he says to the girl, you know, sitting 2 chairs next to him, he says, "Haret mekadesh asleep, the lamb chops elu. Haret mekadesh asleep, it's low stela elu. Kedas Moshe soil." And he designated 2 edim. Everything is good. Oh wow, really? Oh sure. So the question is, do the kiddushin apply? Forget now about etiquette or tznius, a very romantic scene. The question is, do the kiddushim apply or no? What's the question? When Baal Savais, Sprinzi, when she gave him the lamb chops, she gave it to him to eat. Her kavanah was to eat, it's not necessarily his for everything. It's not his to own or do business or even mekadesh a woman. Yeah, by the way, it's a sofik la'alocha. I don't know what the alocha is. But let's assume the Baal Savais would be surprised and say, I'm sorry, I like you very much. Thank you very much. You be our guest. It's 5 lamb chops, but it's yours, not yours completely as the sole owner. You're here to eat the lamb chops and tell me how much you like them. But it's not here to be mekadesh a woman. It's not completely owned by you for all purposes, and therefore the same thing. But mizbeach, it's not a question. When the Aibishte owns the kochim kalim after shchita and zrika, and now he allows the kohanim to eat their bit like a father feeding his child off the table in a spoon like that. But it's not theirs completely to be mekadesh a woman, and therefore then it doesn't apply even according to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says money, momon belonging to the bailim. They're prehistoric. That's before the zrika. That's when it was alive. Then it was owned by the bailim. After the shchita and the zrika, it's owned by Kadosh Baruch Hu, and then it cannot be mekadesh. Very good. So no stira. Everything is perfect right now. Now, okay. Frag the Gemara, Michaim, mi Omar. Is that true that Michaim? By the way, before we continue, Michaim says Rashi something very important. Why is it really considered his as long as the animal is alive, and after the zrika, it's not his anymore. You can say different reasons. Rashi says 3 words. You can look in Rashi if you want. Mechaim shachrayus hu olov. It's his responsibility. In halacha, we saw it also in Bava Basra. If I'm in charge of something, that if the thing gets lost, I'll have to pay for it. It's a sort of ownership. Because at the end of the day, I'll have to fork out money from my own pocket. And therefore, when I say this sheep is kochim, is shlomim, and I have to bring it to Beis HaMikdash, what happens then? If it gets lost, I'll have to pay for another one. Depends if it says Harei Zu, Harei Olai. Let's say it says Harei Olai. I am committing myself to bring a korban, right? And now this is the korban. If it gets lost, I'll have to bring another one. So at the end of the day, it translates into my money. I may have Chalila a hole in my bank account if it gets lost. So because I have responsibility, my mail is considered as mine. That's the logic of Rabbi Akiva. But once it was nizrak the dam, once the blood was spilled, at that moment you should know, always, whenever you learn kochim, the most crucial point, you remember that as a golden rule, the most crucial point in bringing the korban is when the blood is spritz to the mizbeach. At that point, everyone can, no, how do you say it? Have a sigh of relief. No, what do you say? Breathe, breathe freely. Yeah, once it was brought to the mizbeach, the zrika, the balim is miskape. We don't care what happens later. We care not as much. The korban was already brought. The kaporo, whatever is done, But the zrika, mimel, it's not my responsibility anymore. Once it's out of my hands, now the zrika was done. It's not the responsibility of the owner. Mimel, who's the owner? Not him. So the owner, Hashem. The other owner, and what happens later, it's not mine anymore, and I can't be mekadesh a woman. And if anybody steals it from me, the kochim kalim, the chori doesn't have to pay me because it's not mine. It's like the piece of lamb, the single guy by the nice table. Yeah, why not on Shabbos? Because can't be mekadesh on Shabbos. There's no kedushin on Shabbos, so it's the Motzei Shabbos meal. You got it? Okay. Frag the Gemara, Michaim Yomar. But the Evid maybe I don't think so. You don't do kinyan on Shabbos. You're not supposed to be mekadesh on Shabbos, so call mekadesh shvi, but not mekadesh a woman. Yeah, because you're not supposed to do kinyan. Well, bichal, but yeah, but don't think so. I don't know. Never tried it. But Mechaim Omar, frag the Gemara, is it true that Mechaim, while the animal is still alive, Rabbi Yossi Aglida would consider it to be the owners, the mekadesh? Is that so? Vatnan. Now we're going to see a Mishnah to do with Bechor. A small introduction about Bechor. One of the kochim kalim is called Bechor. Bechor, once born, is obviously the firstborn of the cow or the sheep. We're talking about animals. And that Bechor belongs to who? To the Kohen. Once born, he belongs to the Kohen. Now, let's say the Bechor is born from my cow, in my herd, then I can choose which Kohen to give it to. But that simply belongs to a Kohen once born. I don't even have to be mekadesh. Only Rabbanan made the gzera that I have to be mekadesh and say, Beped, this is Kodesh. But Midoraisa, once born, it's Kodesh. Kodesh Merechem. From the womb, it's Kodesh, like a firstborn of us, of the people, of human beings, of Jews. Now, Mimela, let's say the Bechor is alive and healthy. No mum. You know what's mum? No blemish. So now, what do you do with it? Eventually, you bring it to Beis HaMikdash, shecht it, zrika, and who gets to eat the meat? Only the Kohen. Bechor is exclusively Kohen. Only the Kohen, not the Israel. In that way, Bechor is like a weird kind of kochim kalim. Only the Kohen gets it. Okay, very nice. Now, what happens if the Bechor has mum? Let's say some blemish fell on the Bechor, and believe me, there are many of them. An entire parak there in Choros to talk about mumim of Bechor. A Bechor, some kind of blemish, whatever, a little thing in the eye, in the lip, and thing in there. Then, now listen to this, as opposed to other animals, once this Bechor has any kind of blemish, then the Kohen gets to eat it right away without taking it to Beis HaMikdash. Free meal. The Kohen owns the entire animal and shechts it outside Beis HaMikdash, wherever he wants. He can't do anything he wants with it, but he can eat it for sure. Everything. He doesn't have to bring the imurim. That's why a Kohen can ever paskin about mumim. If you have a question to the rabbi, you have a Bechor with a mum. He's like, over. You can take it to a Rav who's not a Kohen. A Rav is Levi or Israel, there are plenty of them. You can't take it to Rav Kohen. Why? Because he has Nagia. He wants it to have a mum, because he'll get to eat it, maybe. He's a potential customer, and it's very easy for the Kohanim to get the Bechor mum. And you don't have to, once again, you don't have to transfer it to another animal. Usually when animals get blemishes, what do? There is some kind of transfer. You do Tmua, right? You take the Kedush from it to another animal, and now it's free, and the other animal is Kodesh. Here, no, Bechor is very easy access to the Kohanim. That's Bechor in a nutshell. Rabbi. Yes, it's not treifa. Treifa is something you're not allowed to share, you're not allowed to eat because it's real treifa, like it's about to die. Mum is not something that's about to die. It's a little blemish in the eye, in the ear. You can live with it very nicely. It's not treifa, it's mum. They're two different levels. Yes, things with mum you can shecht and eat. Yes. Now,
that belongs to the clothing is the rasa from the Torah, yes? But
again, let's just review. Kohen born to Israel, to the cow of Israel. A guy has, I don't know, 100 cows in the Golan. Very nice. One of them gave birth to a baby boy, Mazel Tov, male. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. It automatically belongs to Shevet HaKehuna, belongs to Kohanim. Okay? Maybe it has to say is a Bchor, but that's with the Rabbanon. It belongs to the Kohen, Yossi. What are you supposed to do? You, the Israel, you have to bring it as a korban. In Beis HaMikdash, they deal with it. And then the Kohanim get it, the entire flesh, everything. And it's all the Raisa. If there's blemish in the Bchor while alive, you shecht it in the Golan, in Bet Shemesh, wherever you want. Soon we're going to talk about South Dakota also. Later we're talking about Chutz La'aretz. Later we're going to talk about it. Then the Kohen gets to eat the whole thing without going to Beis HaMikdash and without having some of the parts onto the Mizbeach. He gets to eat everything. That's all. That's a Bchor. Yes, quick. Yes, I'm with you. I'll continue the Gemara. Haimi Omar, did Rabbi Yossi Glili indeed say that Kochim Kalim, you can really, are you the real owner and you can be mekadesh a woman with it? Ratnan. Look what it says in the Mishnah. It says over there, the Mishnah in Ma'aser Sheni, at the beginning of Ma'aser Sheni, B'chol, Moichin Oisoi Tam Chai. Let's say the B'chol is Tam Chai. What does Tam Chai mean? Tam means that it's whole, it's intact, it has no blemish, no mumim, it's tam, and is alive. What's the destiny of that the behema? It will go where? To Beis HaMikdash. I'm allowed to sell it. It's mine to sell. I can sell it. Very nice. Why? Why can I sell it? Why not? Maybe you want to bring a bchor to Beis HaMikdash. You want to do the mitzvah. You want to go to Beis HaMikdash. I don't. Let's say I'm busy now. You give me money, and you have the ownership to take it to Beis HaMikdash and shecht it. Let's say you're a kohen. That makes a lot of sense. Where are you going to go sell it to? You're going to sell it to who? To a kohen. Now, but much simpler, says Rashi, that's one option. But I was actually wrong to say that option first. I'm sorry. Really, what Rashi says in his number one option, it's very kedai to sell it to a kohen. Why? A kohen will wait patiently until what happens is going to get some mum. Very, very likely for an animal to get a mum, even a scratch, whatever, something, some kind of mum, and then he'll shecht it and eat it. So it's very lucrative for a kohen to buy it. I'm Israel. I don't need the whole headache of starting to deal with a b'chor. It's a b'chor which is alive, kicking and healthy. You, Mr. Cohen, buy it from me with good money, for good money, and you'll wait until the moon falls, until the yipol boom, until it has moon, and then you don't need this. A mikdash, no korbanos, eat it in your house in Modin Elit. Very nice. So I can sell it to you. Very nice. What about if it's tam, not mentioned here, tam and shechted? Let's say I shechted a tam. I shechted the b'chor, which is intact, supposed to be in Beis HaMikdash, but I shechted it outside Beis HaMikdash. Can I sell it? 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're missing a trip to Hawaii and a huge Chevrolet, BMW, Volvo. No, okay, you missed it. Okay, so you're making good. The motion with the no, you can't sell it. It's kochim machutz. If a korban, if an animal is supposed to go to Beis HaMikdash because it's intact and good and nice, and it shechted it outside, what is that called? Kochim machutz. That's Yisrael Kores. It's all Parsha in Achrei Mois after Yom Kippur. Therefore, such a thing, of course, I can't sell. It's also Treif Kores. They're supposed to bury it. Not even a question. Continues the Mishnah. Ubal mum chai v'shachut. Bal mum chai v'shachut. Bal mum. Let's say the behema is balas mum, the bchor. Who can own it very easily? The kohen. I'm Israel. I'll sell it to the kohen either alive or shachut. Both are okay. I'm allowed to shech the bchor outside Beis HaMikdash if it has mum. It's not supposed to go to Beis HaMikdash anyways. It's just for kohanim consumption outside Beis HaMikdash. I can do business and sell it to the kohen. Absolutely fine. Mekadesh bo yesa'isha. Mekadesh bo yesa'isha. Also, you're allowed to be mekadesh a woman with that same thing. If I can sell it, I can be mekadesh a woman Very good. Either we're not talking here after he was Nizrak Adam. No, we're talking outside Beis Hamikdash. This is outside Beis Hamikdash business. Kochim Kalim are mine. Very nice. mekadesh a woman. Very nice. That so far seems to be yes, like Rabbi Yossi Glili. However, all of a sudden things begin to sour and get problematic. Rav Nachman Omar Babua says, "Lo shonu el b'chor b'zman hazeh." Only b'chor nowadays. That only applies to b'chor nowadays. The kema de lo chazi la'krova, unfortunately, with other Beis Hamikdash, mimela krova will never happen. Islu lekohanim zchia begavayu. Mimela the kohen already is the owner. Yeah. By the way, I think I didn't phrase it right. Excuse me. I didn't phrase it right. I think the one selling it is also a kohen. I have to find out. The one selling it is a kohen. Kohen. Yeah. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Stand corrected. I felt not so comfortable as I was talking. I don't think Yisrael can sell it to a coin because Yisrael is supposed to give it to a coin for free. It's matnas kehuna. The one doing the business is one coin with another coin. One coin got the b'chor. He doesn't want to eat the meat. He already had enough meat for today. So now this coin can sell it to another coin. I made a mistake. And really, Yisrael, as far as I remember, cannot sell it to a coin because Yisrael is supposed to give it anyways. You can't sell truma to a coin. You can't sell the rishis against to a coin. It's supposed to give it to them for free. Matano, 24 matnas kehuna. So I was just wrong in that one nekuda. I'm sorry. Really, a kohen that owns the b'chor sells it to another kohen. But here comes Rav Nachman and says, it's only true b'zman hazeh when we don't have Beis Hamikdash. The kema de lo chazi la'krova, because it's not meant to be brought anyways to Beis Hamikdash ever. There is no such thing, unfortunately, as korban Beis Hamikdash. So the kohanim have zechia, they have the right, they have the ownership begabayu in the korban, and they can sell, they can wheel and deal. In times of Beis Hamikdash, when it's meant to be brought as a korban, then right from the start, they don't have they don't have ownership in the kochim kalim. That already sounds like not the right? In other words, in the times of Beis Hamikdash, Rabbi Yossi Glili spoke even in times of Beis Hamikdash. Why? Says Rashi, he brought the proof from the story of the guy with the pikodon that he deposited in the middle of the night before going to the Tzimarim, and if he did something wrong, he has to bring a korban. So Rabbi Yossi Glili spoke in times of korbanos, and he said the kochim kalim are completely yours as long as they're alive. Here we say no. In times of Beis Hamikdash, the kochim kalim are not yours. The b'chor is not yours to sell, Mr. Cohen. Don't start wheeling dealing. It belongs to Hashem. Can't be mekadesh a woman. Can't sell it to other people as long as Beis Hamikdash is there. So far, it doesn't go to Rabbi Yossi Glili. Okay, the Eisivei. Now things are getting worse. Eisivei Rav Nachman. Rav Esther of Nachman. Rav Nachman made the statement that it only applies nowadays and not in Beis Hamikdash. Rav challenged Rav Nachman and asked, look, it says in the Posuk, what did he say? Look, what you said doesn't apply according to Rabbi Yossi Glili. Rabbi Yossi Glili said that kochim kalim are the money of the owner according to Rabbi Yossi Glili. So what you say doesn't fit with Rabbi Yossi Glili. What would I answer? I would say, yes, it doesn't. What he wants from my life, right? How would you answer the question? We're saying Rabbi Yossi Glili says that kochim kalim are the ownership. They're considered to be owned by the owner, kochim kalim. And now we're challenging Rav Nachman from Rabbi Yossi Glili. Rav Nachman said otherwise. Rav Nachman says, no, as long as the animal is alive, even then, it's considered as money of Hashem, as long as Beis Hamikdash is around. I would say, true, well, it's not exactly the first time we see a machlokes. This is according to Rabbanon. Rabbanon say that the animal, when Beis Hamikdash is there and the animal is alive, Rabbanon say belongs to Hashem. And if my shore gored it is potter, and he can be mekadesh a woman, and stealing doesn't apply, and Rabbi Yossi Glili says it belongs to the Bailim as long as it's frolicking around in his backyard in Beit Shemesh, belongs to who? To the owner, machlokes. That would be the end of the story. Surprisingly, look what happens here. All of a sudden, something crazy is happening. Umeshani, you know what Ravina answered? Instead of saying the simple answer, Umeshani Ravina, b'bchor b'chutz la'aretz. We're talking about a b'chor that was born in Chul. He was born in Hepson suburb garden suburb. Yeah, he was born somewhere in Chutz la'aretz. He was born in a farm near Monsey, upstate New York. That's where the b'chor was born. And so what? And this follows Rab Shimon. Rab Shimon says, Rab Shimon has a very interesting opinion regarding Kodshe B'choyros, born in Chutz La'aretz. He says they're not so welcome to come to Eretz Yisrael. If a guy from Chutz La'aretz, ever occurred to you what happens if a person in Chutz La'aretz is still living in Chutz La'aretz while Beis Hamikdash is in Eretz Yisrael? I don't know if that would happen in future. Let's in Bais Sheni that did happen. There were people in Rome when there was Bais Sheni, and in Bavel many of them. Yeah. Let's say it's times of Bais, whichever. Somebody lives in Chutz La'aretz. Does he bring korbanos? What happens if you have a firstborn? He's a Jewish farmer in South Dakota, about 5,000 million, whatever Jewish farmers over there for sure. And now he has a firstborn cow or sheep. Does he bring it to Beis Hamikdash? Says the Mishnah, Imbaut mi mikovu. If already they came to Beis Hamikdash, he made the Beis Hamikdash trip 2022 to Beis Hamikdash, and he brought his b'chol tomim to Beis Hamikdash. You bring it, you makriv, you bring it to the mizbeach. In lechatchila loy, but lechatchila don't. Lechatchila, if you live in Minnesota, then what do? Or Manchester, what do? Wait until it has mum, and let the kohen eat it over there, and that's it. Don't bring it to Beis Hamikdash. We prefer not to get kosher from Chutz La'aretz if we don't have to. Now, by the way, the Rambam says that kosher born, if somebody's makadesh behem in Chutz La'aretz, somebody had a very nice, whatever, day out in, I don't know, in the bungalow colony, very nice time. He wants to thank Hashem, and now what? He wants to bring a korban, and he lives in New York, Kodesh, New York. So what does he do? He brings, what's funny? So he brings it to Beis Hamikdash. He brings it to Beis Hamikdash, has to be mitapel, and bring it all the way to Beis Hamikdash, which is, from some odd reason, in Eretz Yisrael. Now, what happens if you have a Baal Mum? If you have a Baal Mum, in Chutz La'aretz, then what do? The Baal Mum there, you bring it to Eretz Yisrael. Why do you bring it to Eretz Yisrael? Because says the Rambam, what's the other option of a Baal Mum that's not Bechor? A Baal Mum that's any other korban, you have to redeem it for another animal, right? And that other animal will have to be brought to Eretz Yisrael. So you might as well bring this one already to Eretz Yisrael anyways, right? Or even before. Kol sheken if he doesn't have a mum. A regular korban is supposed to find its way to Eretz Yisrael, and it's a achrayus of the owner to bring it. But a b'chor, no. A b'chor is the only animal in the world, the only korban in the world, that if blemish falls into it, if it has a mum, then what happens? It's not brought to Beis Hamikdash b'chlal. So it's not going to find its way anyways to Beis Hamikdash. No, it can be eaten by Rabbi Cohen from New York, right? Or Mr. Cohen from Los Angeles. So we don't need to bring it to Beis Hamikdash anyways, because we prefer not to have kosher chutz la'aretz in Beis Hamikdash for whichever reason. And mimela, if the b'chor has mum in it, leave it in New York, leave it in wherever, in Dallas, and leave it there. Who's going to have it there? The kohen. Very nice. Mimela, says the Gemara, aha, that's the answer. What does it have to do with us? What did he ask? We had a stira. We said, you know what? On one end, we see that you're not allowed to sell, deal, do kiddushin with behemoths, with the b'chor, which is in the times of Beis Hamikdash, right? Because it's not yours. And then we said, stira. What's a stira? Rabbi Akiva said otherwise, so it's a stira. So what did we say? No, it's not a stira. No, really, everyone would agree, everyone would say the same thing. We're talking here about kachim in Chutz La'aretz. In Eretz Yisrael, really, what do? It's considered, because it's supposed to be going to Beis Hamikdash, then it's not yours. In Chutz La'aretz, it's not supposed to be brought to Beis Hamikdash, and therefore they're considered as yours. That's the answer. Difference between Chutz La'aretz, it's yours, and Eretz Yisrael, it's not yours, because those Kochim Kalim, B'chor, what are they? They're brought to Beis Hamikdash, supposed to be brought to Beis Hamikdash, so they're not yours, even while they're in your backyard in the Shemesh. But the question is, what on earth is going on here? That's against everything we said. Last line of the page. Ve'im Isa, if it's true, if you say Rabbi Yossi Glili believes that every animal of Kochim Kalim is yours, Mechaim, why do you have to come to any terutzim? Lishni, you'd give him a with Aleph, you can answer easy. Finished. What's your story with Chutz La'aretz and Eretz Yisrael? Why come in coaxing up this terutzim? Simple. Rabbi Yossi Glili holds that an animal anywhere in the world, which is Kochim Kalim, including B'chor, is yours. And you can be mekadesh a woman, do whatever you want with it, sell and deal and wheel and whatever you want. And Rabbanan say it's not yours, it belongs to Hashem. It's finished the story. Why do you have to come up with terutzim of Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz? And by the way, it's not true. And Rav Nachman would be the Rabbanan, Rabbi Akiva, all very nice. Why do you come up with new stuff? Answers the Gemara, a new bomb. Pew, now the Gemara is going to throw a bomb. The Gemara is going to differentiate between B'chol and other Kochim Kalim. Very easy way to differentiate. Says the Gemara, Matnas Kehuna Ka'omat. Are you talking to be a Matnas Kehuna? Matnas Kehuna are different to other Kochim Kalim. I'll explain soon. Shiny Matnas Kehuna. Matnas Kehuna are different to other Korbanos. The Chikazochu, because when the Kohanim get it, B'shulchan Gavoya Kazochu, they get it from Hashem's table even when they're alive. Let's explain. Let's summarize what we've seen so far in a nutshell. So far, it's very, very easy. Rabbi Akiva throughout the Amud consistently said that Kochim Kalim of, as we thought, all shape and form, Shlomim, Toida, Meiser is actually something maybe different. We're not talking about Meiser now. Bechor, we thought, Shlomim, Toida, whatever, Pesach, what are they? As long as it's not shechted and the blood was spilled, who owns it according to Rabbi Akiva? When it's in a backyard in Nachalai alone? What? The owner. Therefore, if somebody gored it, that's our Mishnah. He's the master of our Mishnah. If somebody gored it, maybe it's my shore. I can be mekadesh a woman with a shore. Haret mukdashly b'shos that maybe that'll be the new shtick now, mekadesh with a shore. It's mine. That's what basically all very nice. Now we ask the question. You see that there was a stira regarding b'chol, that a kohen owns a b'chol. We had a question. We had a stira. Does a b'chor, is a b'chor owned by the owner to be mekadesh a woman and sell on? We said no. And the Rabbi Akiva said yes. And we said it's a stira. Well, it's a stira. It's a machlokes. What's a stira? It's the first time you see two different opinions. You start giving me answers about chutz la'aretz here. Answers the Gemara. There's a difference big difference between b'chol and let's say shlomim. And I'll tell you why. Shlomim were born a regular kid, excuse the pun, a regular cow, a regular calf. At some point, one happy Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, the owner decided to be mukdash that animal for Shlomim. It became Shlomim. The day it became Shlomim, it's even in the album of the life of that cow. Okay? Now, that is something that, who remains the owner? Who remains the owner? The owner. I owned this Shlomim, this behema, before it became Shlomim, for the first half year of its life. Now, Monday morning, I decided to make it Shlomim. It stays mine. It retains the status of being mine. It belonged to Moshe all the time. It stays Moshe until brought to Beis HaMikdash. A B'chol is just the other way. B'chol, once born, belongs to a Kohen, belongs to a Kohen, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who said, once born, it belongs to who? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm giving it to a Kohen, to one Kohen. Who's the one who gave it to the Kohen? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was never owned by a Kohen, and he designated it, and he keeps the strings attached, right? This is something that Hashem said, you give the matnas kiyun. Hashem commanded the soil that owns the animal, that right from the start potentially was owned by a Kohen, and Hashem said at some point, give it to the Kohen. Either shecht it in Beis HaMikdash Makriv, or with the mum, it belongs to the Kohen completely outside Beis HaMikdash. But this is something that came from Hashem. This is something that Kadosh Baruch Hu said, you, Mr. Kohen, Hashem, I give it to you, like a father spoon-feeding his child, I'm giving you the B'chor. Such a thing that Hashem gave the Kohen, it wasn't his legally, it wasn't his in Goyish terms, in normal Chosh and Mishpat terms, I shouldn't say Goyish, in Chosh and Mishpat terms, Hashem gave the matana to the Kohen out of the blue. That is exactly like we said before about all Kochim after they eat from the Mizbeach. It's something belonging to Hashem, and he administrated it and he gave it to them. Same thing over here. A b'chol, because it's a matnas kehuna, it's one of the 24 gifts that go to the Kohanim. A b'chol belongs to who? Belongs to Hashem. And he says to Mr. Kohen, you're allowed to eat it. And by the way, it's not so simple. You're allowed to do other things with it. It's a question. But a b'chol, you're allowed to eat the b'chol, Mr. Kohen. And this is a gift from Hashem, just like the single guy who's hosted by Shprinz Avela, him and a single girl and other people around. He cannot be mekadesh with the lamb chops, because it's only his to eat. This is a bit wider, but still, this is Lamaisa, something that's only owned by a Kohen, and even Rabbi Yossi Glili would agree that it's not called completely Mammon Kohen. Yeah, it's not called Mammon Kohen, it's only Mammon Kohen because Hashem gave him a gift, but it's not his that he acquired it from the beginning. A gift, you do the gift what Hashem tells you. And Hashem didn't tell you to mekadesh a woman, or sell it, or deal a wheel. When did Hashem say that you can be mekadesh and mekdesh? If you live in the very holy city of Lakewood, or Muncie, or I don't know, Kensington, then why? Because then it's not supposed to go to Beis Mikdash anyways. It has no destiny. It's not meant to go to Beis Mikdash. So even though it's Kodesh, then everyone agrees it belongs to the owner, because to the Kohen, actually, because that's a different matter. It's not really Shulchan Gavoya. Very good. Only dawns at me now, it's not Shulchan Gavoya. Shulchan Gavoya means Beis Mikdash. Something that's supposed to go to Beis Mikdash, and Hashem said, okay, I'm giving you the leftover, so to speak, whatever has mum, the Kohen gets. So he's not supposed to be in Beis Mikdash. But the Be'ema born in Johannesburg is not supposed to go to Beis Mikdash if it's a Bchor. So Mimela, the Hashem allows the Kohen to do everything with it in its complete ownership. I think Jeffrey was first. I'm sorry to do this to you all the time. Tomorrow in Daf Yigimel Amud Aleph. Thank you. Bye.